Yeah. Hello there, Susan S. Hello there, Amy WC. Welcome, everybody. Standing Stones, Denise. Cheyenne, welcome there. So everybody's starting to tune in. Everybody's starting to get ready for the Bama conference. So welcome, everybody. Barb is not be able to attend today. She has to take care of a few things, and she had something happen too. So, yeah, we're going to miss Barb, but the show must go on, and we'll be thinking about you, Barb. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have somebody that is returning. Let's go ahead and bring him in. Mr. JJ, welcome.
Hello.
So, yeah, so we know this character from his Bigfoot encounters, but what about the paranormal side? So that's interesting. And so we're going to dive into his paranormal side and his encounters. Welcome, Mort. Round of applause for everybody. Yeah, Denise is saying hello there, JJ. Renee's hello. So where do we start with your paranormal side? Take us back to the beginning, kind sir.
Oh, back to the beginning.
Yes.
High school, 1980s.
Wow.
I met the grandchildren of Ed and Lorraine Warren in high school. And I got to know the family. And I got to know their stories. And at that point, it was all armchair. You know, I wasn't doing anything. I was just interested in the topic, so I would read about it. I knew that it was a dangerous realm. You know, I knew that people that start investigating, you end up being investigated by
right.
spirits. And I knew it's a dangerous thing to enter and to explore. But by the time I reached my 40s, my curiosity started to outweigh my caution. So when I reached my 40s, I started to go on investigations with a lot of students of Ed and Lorraine, primarily David Considine. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he's been featured on A Haunting quite frequently. So it was his classes and instructions on paranormal investigation, combined with knowing Ed and Lorraine's family through the decades, and that's what led me into it.
Interesting. Now, a lot of people, you know, think about paranormal investigations. They think about what we see on TV, right? The amusement and the thrills and sometimes the comedy off of it, which I'm aware of, and some of the entertainment parts of it. But you hit on a key note, and you said it on early on when you first came on, how dangerously it can be. Let's talk about that for a moment. Why would you say something like that? Enlighten the audience about it.
Well, Lorraine used to warn people, do not go on investigations. Do not explore any of this unless you have a faith defense. Now, she would often call it a white light defense, where people envision a white protective shield around themselves. Primarily, it's a representation of your faith in a higher power, and you have to have great faith as a defense, because these things will come at you and they'll start to wear at you and find vulnerabilities, because they do not want to be exposed and they do not want to be expelled. There is an agenda usually to most hauntings, and primarily the agenda is not positive, it's negative.
That is correct. What was your first investigation you went on with the Warrens? I know we talked about it briefly on one of the shows, but let's go back to that first one with them.
Oh, I wasn't actually with the Warrens, but when I was a teenager, they sent their grandson and I to the legendary town of Dudleytown in Cornwall, Connecticut, the abandoned colonial site that was supposed to be cursed. Now this place is very controversial, and you could get flack for even saying it, actually saying the name. It's sort of Area 51 in Connecticut. The town of Cornwall, Connecticut does not like any attention paid to this place. And if anyone drives up the residential streets leading to the park entrance, they will be ticketed $300 immediately.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, you know, this is old Connecticut lore. I'm not quite sure how accurate it is. The Reverend Gary Dudley, who's a skeptic, he has communicated with me all his reservations. Ed himself took a lot of his information from prior sources, like in books called Legendary Connecticut and other books. Gary assumed that Ed sort of made up the whole thing, but no, he didn't. He just pursued what was already written. We went exploring. Nothing dramatic happened other than getting lost and it getting dark.
Right.
And coming across another couple who were also lost. As it turns out, the teenage girl was there to do a conjuring ritual with candles and the whole bit. And Chris,
Interesting.
their grandson, had to talk her out of that. He was like, do not attempt anything like that here.
Well, that's interesting.
In general, don't do it.
That's interesting. So,
yeah, through the years, there was one investigation I was on that Lorraine helped resolve the situation. This is Lorraine deep in her 80s. So this is way later. It was in New Fairfield, Connecticut, and the house was infested with apparently a combination of human and demonic spirits. And Lorraine sensed them. She brought a cleric friend. They did cleansing prayers, and the house was primarily freed, although the owner of the house continued to experience phenomena. And horribly, he ended up dying in a car accident.
oh, wow.
Yeah. It was very tragic for him. But the house was helped.
Looking back with the Warrens and being with the family members and the grandson, how do you think that's helped you with your paranormal encounters and experience throughout the years?
Well, it's helped me be cautious. It's helped me to be careful. Like on the show Ghost Hunters with Taps,
Right.
and Grant, the whole crew, they would start what they call provocation, where they're trying to get a reaction out of the spirit. And usually the provocation was based in insults and challenges. Now, you insult and challenge the spirit world, they're not necessarily going to take you up on it at that moment. They're not necessarily going to be what you say. You know, it's not a street fight.
Right.
But what you did was you just gave them permission. You gave them permission to come and retaliate. So they could be at home 3 years later, asleep in their bed, and something's going to come on top of them. And it's happened to a lot of investigators. You know, the phantomania experience where you're strangled in your bed or you feel crushing weight on your chest. And it often happens with investigators when they do things wrong and they don't have their defenses set up.
I don't think a lot of people understand what you just said, because things can come to pass or fruition years down the road, not just right after an investigation or an event. And right. I think it's very crucial that you brought that up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a very dangerous field. And I think in the spirit realm or whatever dimension these entities reside in, time is not the same for them as it is for us. We live in a linear timeline, as it were, something very predictable. something very methodical. I think in their realm, there could be jumping. There could be going back and forth. You know, that would explain why some people have had to get the prophecy through the centuries, because the spiritual reality that they're linked in is able to jump forward. It's able to jump forward, and they can get glimpses. Thus, you have prophecy. Now, these spirits can jump forward and attack you when you least expect it.
Right. That is correct. As we're setting up the stage compared to TV in your investigations, right? Let's talk about the differences as we walk into your investigations as we're going throughout the years. What are some of the primary differences that we should focus on and let people know how different they are from what we see on TV?
Well, the ultra cautious approach that me and investigators like me take is the primary difference. As I was saying, you do not provoke, especially by your own authority. Now, there is something called religious provocation. Religious provocation is generally used by Christians, such as myself, where you'll say, in the name of Jesus Christ, reveal the nature of your identity. And what you're doing is you're referring to a higher power. You're not referring to yourself. You're not placing the challenge or the authority in yourself. And that's important. You know, that's important for safety.
Yes, I agree.
So,
Denise,
yeah, caution and to be very methodical and to not take things at face value. And that demonic spirits, they enjoy putting on disguises. One of their most common disguises is a child, a helpless, lost child. It's seen in many, many cases where they're getting sympathy and they're getting a lot of emotion coming their way, because who wouldn't feel for a lost child, you know?
right.
And
Absolutely.
it's all a pretense. Do you remember the old show Sightings?
Yes.
There was something they visited frequently. It's called the Sally House in Kansas. The Sally House had a small girl appeared to the couple that lived there, but the man of the house would keep getting gouged and scratched. And the sightings crew would film his arm as the scratches occurred. And he would have scratches so deep there'd be streams of blood running down his arm. And it was all, Sally, don't do that. Sally, stop that. Well, eventually the whole story came out, and the man of the house admitted that he saw Sally once as a demonic form, a traditional medieval demonic form with wings and horns and the whole deal. You know, that the pretense of the cute little girl with the big wide eyes, that was gone.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, they play a mind game on you, and you don't trust the EVPs, which will be frequent, you know, the voices that you record but do not hear, electronic voice phenomena. You don't trust everything at face value. Now, a lot of the TV shows, a lot of the investigators, they will. They'll trust, like, is this Simeon from the 1900s? And Simeon, how are you? And we're so sorry that you were, you know, beheaded by that mob or whatever. But
Right.
you always have a skeptical nerve in you. Like, is this a poor 19th century murder victim, or is this something else? And quite frequently, it's something else.
No, that is true. And that's absolutely correct. Denise is asking you, have you ever had anything happen to you during an investigation?
Attack wise, no. I've had things occur in my life and in my private realm things that go haywire for no reason. And in my home, things would fly off the wall, shelves would come down, some poltergeist activity. And then you just say the protective prayers. In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to go back where you came from. And it will cease, but it will not desist. It will occur again. Because now they know you and they don't like you.
Right.
They got your name, they got your number, and they have your address.
So you're describing that there's a clear difference in what we see on TV and what happens in reality on investigations. And I always caution people that, sometimes you go to a place or a site and nothing happens at all. And it may be 30 hours of recording and nothing shows up or happens. However, just because that happens doesn't mean there's no activity, right? So when you go to a place,
Absolutely.
what are some of your steps that you go?
They hide. They will hide. They do not want to be exposed, and they are not interested usually in showing off for investigators. Usually. Now, that could happen on occasion, but most normally they hide. So when I would go in with the team, we would sit back, set up recording equipment, video cameras, audio recorders, take electronic field readings, look for elevated readings where there shouldn't be any. Just set up as a conventional crew would. But then if you go several hours with nothing happening, I would start the religious provocation. In the name of Jesus Christ, you are commanded to reveal your identity. And usually the EVPs may kick in as a response, or a phenomena may happen. And unfortunately, sometimes investigators, even in my crew, would end up with a scratch or a pinch. One had his eye swell up.
Oh, wow.
Punched in his eye. Yeah.
Wow. Amy WC is asking you, what is your thought, JJ, about perfect possession? And
Malachi Martin, the famed Jesuit exorcist, wrote about perfect possession. I believe it's a true phenomena. I believe it happens, and I believe it's very, very hard to detect. So you wouldn't know. Quite often, they're very charismatic people. They're sort of like Faust in the old legend, who sold his soul to the devil for fame and money. And they're totally and perfectly possessed, but everything in their life is hunky-dory. We're not talking Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
Right.
It's a completely different scene.
It's amazing because when we talk to rock stars, right, musicians, we talk about they sell their souls to the devil, or movie actors or actresses. I thought that was a figment of people's imagination. I did not know that actually occurs.
When they say that, even as a metaphor, sure, you did.
Yeah. I cannot name who I spoke to, but that actually does occur.
Yeah.
And I was taken back, and we're talking people that we know. For example, we talked to somebody a couple of years ago, and they were like practicing in a studio, and they said that they got visited, and the guy looked homeless. And the guy said, if you want everything that you want, I'm not going to say verbatim what was said because I don't want to attract anything.
Right.
But he said to sign. And he said the paper looked ancient, and he thought it was a joke. And when he turned around to get his band members to look, they were like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "Did you not see this guy that walked in?" And they thought he was going crazy. And you know that he missed his fame by this much. And he was like, "That was my chance." And then you think about, yes, yeah, he missed it. And other people that came forward in Hollywood, like, yeah, I sold my soul and I had my debt to pay. And people that have taken their lives, and it's just like they can't escape it. So that is something that actually occurs. And I'm just like, wow. Thank you, Catherine. But
you know,
yeah, go ahead.
As a side note, if you see a pop star and their music starts becoming more occultic and more dark, if they have more occultic symbolism in their stage performances, watch out. Something not kosher.
Those are signs.
I'm not naming names, but
those are signs. But
yeah.
The famous people that has not sold their soul, right, will tell you the people with no talent at all, are millionaires that sells millions and millions of records. They don't know how they did it because they have no talent.
Yeah.
But they got everything they want and then some, right? But yes, it's just crazy.
It is.
But now you get all this experience and, you know, you got all this talent behind you. Now you're going in doing your investigation. So let's talk about some of those.
Oh man, so many. Some were potentially human spirits. Some were demonic spirits that were driven out. David Considine helped me a great deal. He would do what's called a self-fumigation ritual, where the incense and with the incense and the prayers, and you open up the whole house to the incense and the prayers, and you bury medallions on each corner of the house, symbolic of guardian angels. And it's an ancient Catholic ritual that seems very effective. And there was a farmhouse up near Hancock, Massachusetts. The family did not live in the primary house that was inherited. The grandmother killed herself in there. Her son discovered her suicide and ended up blowing his head off. It was a very negative house. The dogs of the family would not go in.
Wow.
David did this self-fumigation ritual, and the dogs went in, and they eventually moved back into the house.
Wow. You know, you just brought up a good topic. Animals, household pets, right? Cats and dogs.
Yes.
What do you think about them being around and seeing things? What's your thoughts on that?
Now, this is sort of like the Sasquatch. Now, the Sasquatch, they have like 1 foot in our human realm and another foot in nature, in the animal realm. And as such, their senses are highly, highly tuned. I mean, our senses are dull in comparison. A cat, a dog, a household pet will notice a spiritual presence, and you'll see it. They'll get alert, they'll look at it, they'll react to it. And quite often it's just an insect or something, but sometimes it's not.
Right. I totally agree with you. I've been at people's homes before, and I would watch their animals, right? And the reason why is they called me over there for shadows or some type of activity. And it's always interesting to watch because usually a lot of people have cats. Right. And I love watching them because the cat will be asleep. All of a sudden, the cat would just open their eyes and just start looking around and like they're tracking something. And then they'll like look around the cat, and then the cat will get up and follow it. And they're always asking me, is something wrong? I'm like, so did you have activity today? And they're like, yeah, we watched the shadow go down the hallway, and the cat's going down the hallway right now. And I'm like, does your cat just look at stuff like in the air? Or you're like, well, yeah, it does. We just never paid any attention to it. And I'm like, well, I think you should, right? But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point on that. So it's very interesting.
It is. Now, there was a briefly aired show called The Haunted. It's not A Haunting, but The Haunted. And it focused on pets and animals and how they react to the paranormal realm. The Massachusetts situation I was talking about was almost on that show. But the creators of the show got a little too intrusive with the family. They wanted to interview a grandmother with Alzheimer's, and they started to get real intrusive in their private lives, and they're like, okay, we've had enough, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
But we actually aired some scenes for that. It was going to be on the air.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Another thing I like to talk about, a lot of people, I think, that are, I don't want to say amateurs, but they are, right, and new at it, because there's a learning step, a learning curve in this process. Unfortunately, a lot of people watch things off TV and YouTube, and next thing you know, they think they're seasoned investigators. However that may be, I'm proud of them taking a step to learn and get involved. But a lot of people leave out mental. What do you think about mental illness in society today with the paranormal? Do you think that plays a big part in this phenomenon?
Yeah, definitely. Now, are you talking about with the clients?
Yes, the clients and activity.
Right. There was one case, it wasn't mine, but I knew of it, where a woman diagnosed schizophrenic was relapsing into her hallucinations. She was in the bathroom, and they took a recording of her talking to her unseen friends in the bathroom to play to her doctor. Because they're like, oh my God, mom's slipping again. She's starting to hallucinate again. Let's record this for the doctor. They were not thinking paranormal. Well, unfortunately, on the recording, there were other voices interacting.
Oh, wow. Yeah, see?
Yeah. I mean, you could have mental illness and the paranormal.
That is correct.
Combined. She was legitimately schizophrenic, but she also legitimately sensed something that was very real.
Yeah, see, when I got hurt, I was fortunate enough, the organization I belonged to, I went and took some classes, and I went and took psychology classes. And mental illness is a big problem, especially in law enforcement, right? And we had to take continuing ed classes every year, especially with people with disabilities, autism, especially with children. I learned how to deal with them, especially with adults as well. However that may be, we found out as well, people with disabilities also may have psychic abilities, right? And with that in mind, I had problems taking the class because I kept telling my professor, what if? And he kept saying, Grizzly, take the class. I'm like, what if? If I have to diagnose somebody and prescribe them medicine, what if this is possible? And he kept saying, forget that, take the class. So I can have tough conversations with clients or with families to rule out certain possibilities. I have to know if something runs in the family. I have to know if you're on medication or if you skip medication that day or a couple of days. However, we have to know that as investigators. I also know if there is family history of mental illness, right? Because maybe you have symptoms and you have not been diagnosed yet. Or if you're going through a depression because something's happened in the family where it can be SA, right? Abuse, or substance abuse or something like that the parents may not know about right now that either I or you could pick up on. However
Yeah.
that be, I also, if somebody claims that they are overtaken by a demonic a possession, without them knowing, I will throw holy water on them, or I would throw tap water on them, let them think it's holy water. Now, that is a good test because I've thrown tap water on people, watch them throw fit on the floor and convulse and slobber over themselves. Then I'm just like, you just need to get up. You're done.
Yeah.
And they really think it's holy water. It's not. And I put holy water on people before and they did not know it. And they just like fell on the floor and they're like convulsing. I'm like, oh, hell no, this is not going on. We got an issue. It's very interesting. Have you ever tried that before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Ed Warren would have a technique where you would introduce a very sacred or blessed item unknown to the client.
Right. Yes.
You know, like bring it very close to them. Like if there's a real demonic presence or possession, they will react in some way, even to like look and glare at you suddenly, like, what are you doing? You know, they'll react.
Yes, that is true. Liana
Now,
King,
when
go
there's
ahead.
no reaction, you can start thinking the more conventional that they may be deluded, you know.
Yes. Yes. Now, Liana King says, I heard more than one person that the opinion that schizophrenia is tied directly to a possession. I have seen somebody that has been not fully possessed and they knew things about me that they shouldn't have known. That's possession.
That's a prime ingredient. That's a prime indicator. Unknown knowledge.
Yes.
David Considine had a woman that was possessed who would speak ancient Aramaic. There's no way she would know that.
No.
And she told him, she referenced the fact that he had a cross fall off his wall that morning when he went to theater. Yeah. She said something to the effect of, did you notice what I did at your house this morning?
Yeah, no. Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want to know, think about a Ouija board. Have you ever used a Ouija board?
No. There's nothing about the board itself. I want people to realize there's nothing about the board itself that's especially dangerous. It's the intent. You could have an upside down glass and yes and no written on pieces of paper. And now Parker Brothers doesn't want anyone to know this. But the
right.
upside down glass and the yes and no written will do the same thing as the Ouija board. So there's nothing about the board that is particularly unique or interesting. It's the fact that you're opening a door to the other side. You're opening your front door to your house and you're yelling out to the street, come on in, come on in. That's what you're doing.
Right. Denise is also asking, have you ever had to get a priest involved?
Yes. Yep. Well, Lorraine had her clergy contact. There was a family of that man in New Fairfield, and they had their cleric come in to do blessings. The one who unfortunately died. He was a veteran. I believe there's something that occurred in the Middle East with him. It's totally conjecture. I have no idea what it was, but there was something that he was targeted with. We sort of helped, but sometimes if you can't get to the root cause, there's always an issue that will remain. That's all conjecture, though. He was a fine person, and I was very disturbed to hear of his passing. It was very sad.
Yeah, and I don't ever hesitate. I'll tell people straight up, you need to call your local priest or your clergyman because this is beyond me. And I do never hesitate it. And Because a lot of people, there's a lot of things I can do, FaceTime, over an email, but I'll tell them straight up, it's not me. It's how well is your faith to get you through this. And a lot of people don't understand that. I can send you all the St. Peter medals and crosses I can in holy water. That's not going to help you if you don't have the right faith. So
it may help to a degree, but not necessarily the degree they want. The greater the faith, forgive the phone ringing.
That's all right. We just talking about priests and medals. So
the greater the faith, the more of a defense involved. If you don't really have faith, like Ed Warren said, even if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, if that black mass is coming at you, you say, in the name of Jesus Christ, go back to where you came from. It will. But you have to have a faith to make it last. You have to have faith to give it real power. You know the old movie, having a brain freeze here. The vampire movie, Fright Night.
Oh, yes. That's a good example.
Yeah. Hold the cross, Roddy McDowell, the skeptic. Holding the cross at the primary vampire, he takes the cross and he crushes it. And you see, there was a younger vampire that I worked on, a weaker vampire. But this is the senior vampire. He's got power. So he crushes the cross, and Roddy McDowell looks all confused, like, what? That's not how it's supposed to work. And the vampire just says to him, you have to have faith for that to work on me.
That is right.
That's exactly the way it is with the demonic spirits. Yes.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. And a lot of people that I work with silently, to the side, they do come to Jesus very quickly and they feel guilty. And I tell them, don't feel guilty, because they know your sorrows and sins, and, he does forgive you. However, it is the truth. And we try to tell people, just like you said in the beginning of the show, evil looks for the weakest link in your armor. Yes. And that is the truth. And when people have mental health issues or problems, they go through them and use them and use their weakened abilities to seek and just, it's just awful. But when it comes with people with disabilities, right? And we talked about this with Bigfoot as well. We see how they like and entertain children. And still, it's magical to see how they cling to them. And we're seeing a lot more cases with that. But it's interesting to see some of the psychiatrists today that's embracing the cryptid world. And that was shocking to me. 10 years ago, that was a no-no to talk to psychiatrists like that. What's your thoughts on that topic now?
Psychiatrists with the cryptids?
Yes, isn't that, in the paranormal, isn't that kind of strange?
Mm-hmm. I never heard, is there a famous one that you could refer to? I'm not sure.
I just know some ones that around Kentucky are open to people having encounters and not be like, oh, we need to get you some medicine.
Oh,
it was just strange. Yeah. And I was just like, well, that's unique. So that was very interesting.
I was saying to Barb on Facebook earlier, when it comes to the spirit realm, maybe half the public is open to it, right? When it comes to Sasquatch or Bigfoot, 1/5.
Yeah, and that's about right.
And that's really sad, because Bigfoot is a physical reality. And we've all been taught in school and by our society that the material and the physical is what you rely on, and things that are abstract, spiritual, or immaterial are suspect, right? Here we got a phenomenon in Sasquatch that's material and physical. It's leaving footprints all over the nation. And more people are skeptical But then with the ghosts and the spirits, they'll double the numbers. And I think
Right.
the primary cause is that more than double of the people have had spirit encounters themselves than have Sasquatch encounters. So the Bigfoot is a more rare phenomena than encountering a ghost.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I've got some EVPs that I like to play that you sent in to us.
Sure.
And the first one I've got up, let's talk about it. It says, this one says, help me. So give us a backstory on this one.
There was a brief TV show on the air called Kindred Spirits. The second,
I remember that one.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. The second episode of that show was something called the Shoebox Murder Case. The Shoebox Murder House is in Wallingford, Connecticut. And they had in the late 1800s a murder victim found in the woods behind this house. His arms, his legs, and his head were missing. And it was stuffed in a commercial shoebox, which was big enough to hold a torso. We're not talking a shoebox as we know it.
Right.
And back then they dubbed it the shoebox murder mystery because no one could find who did it. They didn't even know who the victim was for the longest time.
Wow.
But the house near this property, like just a stone's throw over from these woods, extremely active house. Spirit activity, pinches, scratches. There was a burned footprint in their hallway. Like they woke up one morning to a human-sized footprint that was like scorched into the wood.
Wow.
But they had that backyard cam. I sent a video of that. It's like a globule that's wandering through their yard and another yard. And all the EVPs you're about to play with that hand in the video, all these EVPs are from the Shoebox Murder House.
All right, let's hit play and see what it says. Yeah, I can hear it.
Yep. Female son.
Yeah, it is saying help me. That's wild.
The two most common EVP comments you'll get on a case are get out or help me, one or the other.
I wonder why is that?
There are apparently spirits in distress, and they are expressing that distress. Now, the get out may be more on the demonic end, where they want to exploit the distress in the house, whether it's spiritual or human.
All right, let me pause this, and here's the other one. Let's see here. And share.
The cow, the cow, the cow, the cow, the cow.
Yeah, that's really clear.
The cow,
Not very pleasant.
No.
the cow, the cow.
Did y'all hear these as they came, or did you hear it on playback?
On playback.
Wow.
Not audible at all.
Yeah, okay. Let me get the other one. Let's see here. All right, let me pause it and share it. Denise is asking, are these spirits not crossed over, you think?
That's a good question. They could be a pretense, a demonic pretense, or they could be earthbound spirits that have not crossed over.
Anywhere in the area is good.
Anywhere in the area is good.
Wow, that is like
Is
crystal
good.
clear.
Yeah,
Anywhere
that,
good.
anywhere in the area,
The
good.
area is good.
That's my voice. I'm
Anywhere
talking
in the
to
area
another
is good.
investigator. They're like, "Where should I put this camera?" And I'm like, "Anywhere in the area is good." And then there's an old voice.
Yeah, I hear it.
Like,
Anywhere
I'm
in
here
the
for
area is
Edmund.
good. Is good. Is
Yeah, I
good.
hear I'm here for Edna.
Is good.
And that's the older style name.
Is good.
Yeah, at the very end you hear it.
Is good.
That is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. All sorts of variable EVPs in this house. And I called our house the Grand Central Station of EVP.
That's wild. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got one more here. Let's see here. All right. Let's see here. I mean, I can hear that as plain as day.
Very sad voice.
Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah, these are not investigators. These are not the homeowners.
Yeah, my son, I miss him. Yeah, my son, I miss him. Wow.
Yeah. Very
Those
sad.
are pretty good.
Yeah. Yep.
Amy asked you, have you ever clearly audible without equipment? Ever heard anybody say get out?
Yes.
Yeah, those are pretty wild.
The thing with me though is sometimes I'll hear what other people don't. But my brain and my ears are geared in a certain way to pick up on it.
Yeah, I mean, once you're tuned in, especially, and now, I mean, you can wear headphones while you're listening to the tape recorder or your digital recorder. You can actually clearly hear them now.
Yeah,
so that's pretty wild.
Help a lot. They do.
So, Virgil says, sounds like my ex. Virgil, you ornery dog, you. I don't believe you got to watch Virgil. That's very interesting. So, JJ, how does everybody find you and get a hold of you?
Well, my Sasquatch channel, Bigfoot Found, is the title of the channel. You can find it by typing in Winsted Wildman Research Organization on YouTube. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much for joining today. And like I said, I'm sorry about Barb. Hopefully Barb gets everything taken care of and gets feeling better. We sure do miss her today.
Yeah.
And but tonight, JJ, this lady is coming forward. She has been stalked by Goat Man for years. And she's coming forward to tell her story. And it's not her imagination, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe she's going to come forward and tell her story. So that'll be tonight at 10 p.m. So if you want to tune into that, ladies and gentlemen, she'll be live. So from coast to coast around the world, we'll catch you tonight. Thanks, JJ.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.